Hey everybody, it is Kneecap here, and this is going to be the third podcast thing. And at some point, I'll probably stop saying the number, but as long as the number is low, I'll probably keep saying it. And in this one, I'm going to be talking about uh, Raider IO and Mythic Plus. That'll be my World of Warcraft prelude, and then kind of a thing I hope I can remember and keep up with is kind of do like life lessons in gaming, and it'll be a life lesson, but I'll make sure I tie it into gaming as well, and just try to help somebody out. Maybe someone can relate to it, and maybe they're younger or maybe they're older and just haven't gone through something yet, and can maybe help somebody out with that. So first of all, I'm gonna talk about Raider IO Mythic Plus dungeons. So Mythic Pluses were a big hit for World of Warcraft, obviously, very popular. You can do them. You can do easy ones. You can do hard ones. You can do push yourself to the limit, all that kind of stuff. And they were a huge hit in Legion. They continue to be a pretty big hit, and then they had like the new thing with reaping and infested, and like these new affixes that can change every season or whatever. And that's a smart idea too, frankly. It's definitely makes it a little bit more interesting and allows a little bit of change to happen as well. But my qualm isn't with Mythic Plus dungeons themselves or in principle. It's with this Raider IO thing. So, uh, man, so let's be just like brutally honest here. So I'm a fairly high end player in that I do all my rotations right. I look up all the best in slots and what trinket sims this way, what trinket sims that way. So I take that kind of stuff really seriously. Most of my parses are usually at least epic for every boss, and then maybe eventually I'll get some RNG and get a legendary parse. But usually at least epic parses everywhere. I'm a high end mythic player. Not the best. I'm not saying I'm the best. I'm just saying like I'm a really good player, and I cannot find a mythic plus group. So the easy thing to do is say, well, that's on me because I don't do enough of them. But my issue is this. So it's pretty much a requirement as a raider to do a plus 10 every week, because at least until you're fully looted out, right? So until you have everything that's the best, until you have full mythic gear or you have full of your best Azerite in this expansion, you pretty much need to do at least a plus 10 every week. And that would be fine if it was easy to find a group for that. Uh, However, the reality is it is not. So I started off this expansion playing really hardcore, and I was trying to build up my Mythic Plus score. So I was doing like plus, this was before people had gear everywhere. So I was doing like a +4 of this, +5 of this, trying to get all the dungeons and get them as high as I could. And I had like a 700 score, like when that was good. So like before people were getting to 1,000, and now of course people are getting to ridiculous numbers, but and I had a decent score. But at this point, I'm like, well, I'm pretty burnt out. I'm raiding 2 nights a week. I'm also trying to do these mythic pluses like every day to keep my score up, and it's just it got out of hand and to the point where I'm just like, well, whatever. I actually didn't get anything from my box that I needed at all. Um, for the first tier or whatever. So I was like, you know what? I stopped doing them in Legion because I wasn't getting any loot, and I stopped doing them because I'm putting a ton of time into this. I'm not getting anything out of it, so I just stopped doing them. I have bad luck. I'm notorious for that. So basically, so here I am. So my score ended up settling around like 760, I think. So I only like barely raised it from that point just by doing like a couple ones that were a little bit higher, and so I barely raised it, and and now, but it's coming to bite me in the ass because now it's really hard for me to find a group. So I think I've done a plus 10 since the raid come out, one per week, or an 11 or whatever. I don't think I've done even a 12, but I think I've done a couple 11s and 10s. So I think that's like what, five or six. But the groups are awful, like awful. So these people are probably what everyone expects me to be, right? So I have a low score. These people are just trying to get their plus 10 in so that they can get their loot or whatever for the week. And that's what I just want to get my loot for the week too. But I'm these people don't know how to do the mechanics. They don't know how to do their rotations. They don't know how to not stand in things, and it is awful to run with them. And those are about the only groups I can find like for completion runs. Now, if I really asked my guild and probably like begged a little bit, I could probably go with some of the people. I have some people that are like really high end Mythic Plusers in my guild, and I could probably just go with them. Honestly, if I just like really asked and stuff and was really sincere about it, even though I don't have a score or anything, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, you do good in the raid. I'm sure you'll be fine." And that's because they know me, and I granted nobody else knows me. And when I run these with these groups, so these 5 or 6 weeks or whatever it's been, I I see what people probably think of me, like with a slow score. They're probably like, "Wow, this guy sucks. I don't want to bring him." And I totally get it, but I think that there almost has to be a way. There almost has to be with this add-on existing, this Raider IO add-on existing. There almost has to be another way that Blizzard can put in a UI to show someone's experience, maybe to highlight someone's achievement points, or not achievement points, but like achievements for dungeons and raids, experience wise. There has to be almost something you can do, maybe like a bio with each player. I don't even know. But this add-on is kind of like ruining the casual high end experience, which I know that's not a huge crowd that are like a lot of people who are high end are super high end. Like they play every night, they play for hours, and they're super high end. But there are some people that are like casual high end, and I think there would be more if there weren't so many barriers like this Rare IO thing, kind of standing in the way of becoming that. So I know, and like I said at the beginning, I know the obvious solution is I just need to grind it out and get a score higher, do lower ones, do +5s, do +6s, grind up a score like all these other people did. The problem is that it's just the time it takes to do that is so ridiculous. And it's not like I play like and also what I could do is I could roll healer and I could roll tank. I actually like I can't really roll healer because I don't have the trinkets and stuff to do that, but I could roll tank. That is a possibility, and that I would have an easier time finding a group. It's not super easy to find a group as Rat. They have really good burst, but and can really cleave down like reaping ads, for example. Wings just, I mean, a pally could just take out reaping on their own during Crusade or Avenging Wrath, depending on your talent. So, you know, they don't seem super valuable, but maybe in that case, I think the problem is usually you only want like one melee, maybe two, depending on the fixes, and then like a demon hunter is always gonna be like a better choice usually for Mythic Plus affixes, just because they have just like that constant burst AOE going on. They don't have yeah, their meta is great, but they don't have to have that up to do like a ton of damage. So I think it's not that the rats aren't good. It's just that there's other things that are better, and so it's just really hard for me to find a group right now, and it's really bad. And I don't know exactly what the solution is, but I'm struggling with it right now, man. It's rough because I want to get it done every week. I'm not even close to being geared yet. I'm like one of the lowest item levels or the lowest item level in my raid. I have terrible luck. I think I have now 2 things from Mythic. After we're 5 of 9, we've killed, like if you like total up like champions each week or whatever, we've killed like 20 bosses or something. I don't know for sure what it is, but we've killed a decent amount of bosses, and I've gotten 2 things total. And 3, I could use all 3 things that drop off the first boss. I've gotten 1 of them, but I still don't have the weapon from Mythic, and I don't have the gloves that I could use from Mythic. And granted, the gloves aren't a huge upgrade, but it's still an upgrade. So I'm struggling over here, man. I have bad luck with loot, and I get it. That's one thing against personal loot, but the other thing is we have a couple other plate wearers in their raid, and I think they pretty much have gotten not a lot. They haven't gotten a lot either, honestly, but they've gotten more than me. So maybe they can pass me something on as they get something that I don't have. Like I know the Death Knight. I think maybe both Death Knights, even though only one of them is currently active, have gotten the weapon, for example, off the first boss. So maybe I can get one of those funneled to me here sooner or later. I might even ask, like, if the holy well, they wouldn't be able to trade it to me anyways because of the item level maybe, but just in some way I just need to get this stuff, and it's really rough. I had the same kind of problem in the last tier. We had another ret pally at the time. We had 2 rets, and he got all the gear within like the first couple runs. And eventually, I got the gear, and then I caught up to him in DPS because I was feeling bad. Cause it's like this dude to beat me in DPS every time, and I was able to even it up more, which felt a lot better. But I just have terrible luck with getting loot. I have terrible luck getting loot out of the Mythic Plus boxes. I've gotten one thing. So one out of like whatever it is, 1 out of 6 runs I've gotten loot off the last boss in the Mythic Plus, but it wasn't even something I could use or anything like that. I mean, my item level, it's not like my item level was low. It's just I have 2 things that are sub 400, and those things have sockets on them. So it's kind of hard. It's harder to replace those. Like a 400 wouldn't replace them, so it has to be something higher. So it has to be like Warforged, Titanforged, whatever, or it has to be from Mythic to really replace those. And then the other thing is the best trinket for Rat is a PvP trinket. So I have a 385 version of it that, I mean, almost nothing can even replace it. There's like one trinket that could replace it, I should say, but I don't even know if it's possible to get because I think it might be a World Quest trinket and it would have to be like 400 item level, and I don't even know if that's possible. So unless you can get World Quest stuff from Mythic Plus box, but I never have, so maybe you can, but I don't know that for sure. So I'm just trying to think of solutions. So I'm more of a solutions oriented person. So I'm trying to think of solutions of what we can do with this Raider IRO thing, because it's a great thing. I actually really like it. So you can go, you get an idea of how active someone is, how much stuff they do, and what they've completed. And it gives you some sense of how good they are. But I think that we almost need something that tracks skill instead of time played, right? Because what is Raider IO really checking? It's checking your time played. It's checking and it's checking not only time played but how much you play, right? So when you start the expansion out, right? So if you started like me, so I'm considered not a good Mythic Plus player because my score is low. Well, my score was right up with everyone else's at one point. So if I would have just kept going along that line, I would have got a higher score. I would have been easily invited into these really fast-paced groups. I've been in good groups before. It's awesome. Like 2 or 3 times I've gotten into good groups. Not this tier, but last tier, I got into good groups. Oh my gosh, before we had any gear, we actually finished a mother load on time, and I'm talking before like anyone had mythic gear or anything like that, and we finished it on time, a +10 with this group, and it was like nobody died. We would have easily 3-chested it if we just had some sort of gear to finish it. And I'm like, a group like that is awesome. And I should have added those people to friends in hindsight. But a group like that is really sweet. But that's not the kind of group I get. I get really bad groups. So, but yeah, continuing my thought. So if I would have just kept doing that, I would have gotten into groups like that, would have kept increasing my score. Now this tier comes along, you can still see my previous score, and maybe that's the answer. Is it kind of is just shifting the paradigm. So what you have to do is you have to, for one, so the way I view it is at the start of expansion, you have to set a little bit more time aside than you do at any other point during a game, because you need to level up as fast as you can, and then you need to gear up as fast as you can. Now Blizzard's put in a lot of good catch-up things to where the gearing up is a lot easier, but you need to gear up as fast as you can, and then you need to do that. So maybe the next thing is you also need to raise your Raider IO score as high as you can at that point. Maybe that's just a shift in the paradigm that I need to account for, right? And one of these times I'm just going to have to do it. So I have on my record, look, I have a 2,000 score or whatever. I'm a good player, or a great player, whatever you want to call that. I don't know what like the super high scores are. I know I seen somebody at 1,900 and was amazed, so I assume 2,000 is pretty good. So maybe if I can just pound my score up that high, just one of these tiers somehow, I could be like, well, look at this score from here. I haven't been as active, but clearly I have that. Just like, if you did take a tier off, but you had cutting edge so if you took this tier off, but you had cutting edge in the first tier, you could link that to a guild mix. See, I had cutting edge, I have good parses and stuff like that. I think parses could be a solution as well. So like, perhaps there could be like an add-on or Raider IO could have a way to view like, okay, so his his mm, his DPS. So I'm at his DPS is in the 90th percentile, even though his score is low. Or, you wouldn't be able to really do deaths because a wipe's a wipe. There's not really much you can do about it as a DPS, unless you're the one who screwed it up. But if there's certain mechanics that DPS get that can wipe it, maybe you can track those and say, he had this person has a 5% wipe or 1% wiping the group type thing. Maybe something like that could be thrown out in there. So you could have DPS parses. You could have maybe some way to show, not failing at mechanics that can wipe the group. Just something else other than just time played. For some reason, it just doesn't feel good. It's not the direction World of Warcraft's been going over the years. It almost feels like more like vanilla, which a lot of people call for. But I mean, not me personally, but a lot of people call for that. But it almost feels that where time played is definitely more important than skill in this case. So not that skill doesn't matter. Skill matters a ton in Mythic Plus, but time played seems to matter more because of getting a score and then getting a good group. You could be an average player that doesn't die much, doesn't mess up much, with 4 skilled players, and that average player is going to look like a skilled player at that point. So I think that matters as well. And I think that's actually a pretty good example for myself even. So if you put me in a group with 4 really high end players, I'm going to look like I'm amazing, right? So I would say I'm probably above average or good as a Mythic Plus player, just because I do mechanics correctly. I do high amount of damage. I'm good at burst damage. I'm really good at reaping because of wings. Can just destroy everything. Can bubble if I have to, and I can almost, if everything was clumped together, I could darn near solo reaping myself. Just like if the tank died, I could just bubble and just finish everything off, assuming everything was clumped, of course. Ret's pretty good for that, and just knowing, to avoid shit and to do the right thing helps a lot in that case. So I would immediately. So let's just say I'm good, right? Let's say I'm not, average and I'm not great and I'm not top tier. Let's just say I'm only good, but I'm really good at a lot of other things. So if you put me with 4 really high end people, I'm gonna look really high end because I do shit right and I know my class, all that kind of crap. So you have a lot of that going on in the game. So I have people I have people in my own guild, and nothing against them if they ever watch this or anything, but they can't seem to do easy mechanics in the raid, but they have a super high Mythic Plus score, right? So what that tells me is they're skilled, they know their class, they know their rotation, they do good damage. It's because it's usually a DPS, but they're probably getting not carried. Carried's not the right word, but their talents are getting inflated by the people that they're running with, probably, in my opinion. And the same thing goes with PvP, right? So you can be like, okay, and that's a good example for me too. This is a better example because I think that I would be a high end Mythic Plus player if I could put the time into it. But a good example is PvP, right? So I'm a really good PvPer, so I'll give myself a step above good on PvP. And I can carry people to a certain extent in like twos or whatever, but you put me with a really really good person in twos, and all of a sudden I'm gonna look really really good. And then but then like, okay, so now I have the super high rating because I'm playing with this really good guy, and all of a sudden you put me with a really crappy guy, and I can't get past like 1800 or something like that. Because the truth is, I'm not like, it's not that I myself am a 2200 2400 whatever player. It's that if I was playing with someone who is that I would then appear to be, because I do know my class, because I do mechanics right, because I don't lag, because I can skill, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's what plays into Mythic Plus as well. It's just a lot about how much time you put in, and I just don't think that's what World of Warcraft was meant for. I know that they've asked this on the Q&A. I want to remember exactly how it was asked. They asked about something along the lines of people leaving groups and stuff like that, and they're like, well, we don't want to penalize people. Sometimes the best option is just to leave a group because the group's so bad. But okay, but then you can't make us have to do a plus 10 to get the piece of loot that we need, right? So there almost has to be a way around it. There almost has to be something else you can do to get the plus 10. And that what they did, they had Wansandi in this. You talk to him, you get this extra damage and healing to help you finish the dungeon, right? So that's supposed to make it so anybody can do it, or mostly anybody can do it, even if the time runs out. And it is helpful, right? We wouldn't have finished the one I did this week that was so horrible. We wouldn't have finished without that. There's no way in heck we would have finished without that. So, you know, that is something that they put in to do that, but I just don't think it's enough, frankly. And it's honestly for one piece of loot. Now it's a guaranteed piece of loot, granted, but it's not guaranteed that it's gonna be something you need. But it's a guaranteed piece of loot, and it could take me anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, so I'm doing other shit on another screen, looking shit up, working, doing shit like that, whatever I can do, making a video, something, and I'm trying to find a group on the WoW screen, and I'll refresh it. I'll apply to 5 groups. I hope I get invited to one, and it can take me anywhere from a half hour to an hour to find a group. So and then sometimes I don't find the group. So what if it's sometimes it's 45 minutes? I give up. I go play with my son. Right? I have a kid, so I can go do that. That's a lot better use of my time than spending 45 minutes looking for a fucking group. So so I just so let's say I only failed once a week finding a group. So let's say I spent only a half hour, and then let's say between the 2 nights I spent an hour and a half. So 45. So I have an hour and a half in there, and I have an hour and a half to 2 hours in a dungeon, right? So we'll even say just an hour and a half. So we'll say 3 hours spent for a guaranteed piece of loot, one piece of loot only, and a chance that it is something that I can wear, that it's not something I already have in slot. Okay? Transpose that to a heroic grade, and eventually to the mythic grade as well. But right now it's the heroic grade. I have 9 chances to get a piece of loot that's only 10 item levels lower that can also Warforge or Titan Forge up. 9 chances to get that, 3 hours or less. And I also get other stuff as well, chance for BOEs and stuff like that. The time allotment is what Blizzard's supposedly working on here. And like that's how they factor everything. That's how they factor how many conquest points you get from an epic battleground. That's how they factor in all this stuff. Like your rewards from world class are how long that it takes to do the world class. Everything they do is time factored. Mythic Plus catch is not time factored. I spend way too much time for what I get, and my solution to that is to spend time that I don't have, spend more hours a week, play 3 to 4 hours a night, and at least through one tier, to get my score high enough to where I get into these good groups, to where I just apply to a group, go do it, and it's like a 30-minute thing. 30 minutes. Now, if you say for 30 minutes, or even 40 minutes or something, but like 30, anything less than an hour to get a guaranteed 410, and a chance that you're going to use it. Now that sounds more reasonable, right? 3 hours doesn't sound reasonable. And, maybe not a lot of people are in my position, but I don't think anybody should be in my position, frankly. I think it's a bad thing, and I really wish things like this make me wish that I was, bigger, more successful, and had more of a voice, because if you're going to time everything else, then you need to look at how much time does it take an average player. I'm an above average player. How much time does it take? So the people that I ran the group with that were really bad, they're probably considered average players, right? And I consider them very bad, but that's just me being like an elitist scumbag. So how long does it take them? How many times did they fail their groups? How many times did they look? Are they spending 6 hours to get that 410 that I spent 3 on? Are they spending 4, 5, 6? Are they spending more? Like, that's ridiculous. And there's got to be a solution to it. I think one of the solutions I kind of stumbled upon it a little bit. I'm already losing it in my head, but I had said something a little bit earlier about just the time you put in. But I wish I could remember now, but perhaps one solution too could be perhaps if you do like you'd have to come up with an algorithm that seemed fair, the time wise, but like doing X amount of plus fives or X amount of plus sevens. Like you have to do this amount, and you know if you do this many of them, then then you can then unlock it. Or I don't even know how you would do that, because then you're just going to run into too much time too, and you're going to have elite players saying, well, that's not fair. I'm doing a plus 19, getting the same loot as this person doing two plus sevens or something like that. I get it, you're like, but there has to be a cap somewhere, right? You're doing a plus 19 because you're a high end player. You want more Titan Residum. The person doing plus 7, is getting hardly any Titan Residum. It's just it's hard to come up with a solution really. But everything else is time gated, so this should be time gated as well. It doesn't feel right for a casual player to have to put that much into it, and I frankly don't think it's right that everything's based off this Raider IO thing, even though I think that the intentions of it are great and everything like that. So it's definitely just a qualm for me. I don't have the kind of time really. It's like I could force myself to. I just constantly grind out these dungeons like I was at the beginning of the expansion, but alas, it just doesn't seem worth it. Like I said, it's sometimes it's even hard for me to get into like a plus 7 or something. So what am I going to do? Start at like plus 2s, do plus 2s and all of them, do plus 3s and all of them. Like a plus 2, I can damn near solo. It feels like, so it's like that doesn't really feel good either. That I have to go back and do those. So I think that's about all I'm going to cover on this Mythic Plus Raider IO stuff. And we'll go ahead and move into more of a general topic, and that's kind of the theme I'm going to go with, or try to go with. Obviously, there will be times where I just have a ton of WoW to talk about, but this is going to be like a life lessons in gaming, right? And what I'm going to be talking about is friendships and removing toxicity from your life, right? And being more happy. So, in my opinion, being happy is the most important thing in life, right? So, what makes me happy? Uh, I have anxiety, so there's some of mine are gonna be funny. But the number one things are my son, my wife, good family gatherings or good friend gatherings, like just happy community type stuff. That kind of stuff makes me happy. And then of course like having all your bills paid, and not having a disaster or an emergency happen. Like those are the kind of things that make me happy. So that's what's important to me, right? And some people are made happy by just having successful careers and or traveling or whatever makes you happy. So being happy is the most important thing. In the gaming community, I think one thing that a lot of us have in common, not all of us, but a lot of us have in common is can be more socially awkward than most, harder to make friends than most, and what's going to happen is you're going to have, very generally speaking, two types of people. You're going to have the really outgoing types that kind of come and go, make friends with everybody, don't really, but maybe don't put a ton of effort into it. And you have people who are more like invested into friendships, invested into, a friendship is a relationship. It's just not a romantic relationship, right? So, or it can be, I guess, but you have this friendship and you might be more invested to it. So what this is going to be about is removing toxicity from your life, and removing toxic friends or friends from your life, and I'll relate that to gaming as well, and things that could, like real situations that could be happening to you or happening to someone in a game, or maybe you're doing it to someone and you don't realize you're doing it, things like that. So an example in the game of what I'm talking about would be in World of Warcraft, for example. Let's say you have an arena partner, and none of these examples are going to be my stuff because, I don't want to put anybody on blast specifically on the internet or shit like that, Not that have a huge platform or anything, but I have a platform and I don't want to put someone on blast that doesn't have any platform at all. So none of these examples will be like my examples. They're just ones that I've thought of. So let's say you are doing arena with people, or just one person. Let's say you're doing twos. You have a twos partner. You guys get along really good. You guys met in the game. You're friends. you talk all the time, like you know each other's lives somewhat, like jobs and crap. Yeah, oh, how was work today? Ah, shit, my boss is a dick. You guys chat and stuff, and you guys do twos, and but what happens is one of you you only do twos with this one person. You don't do it with anybody else. He's your buddy. You might have a couple other buddies too in the game, but this is the buddy you do twos with. You don't do it with anybody else. You rely on this person, right? And then this buddy, in this hypothetical, does arena with a bunch of people, does twos with a bunch of people, does threes with a bunch of people, does all kinds of stuff, and kind of like he doesn't rely on you for anything. If you're not there, he doesn't care. He doesn't hold it against you. He's like, whatever, man. I can do it with Joe this week or whatever. It's not a huge deal if you can't sign on. And so you guys have a completely different. You guys are in the same friendship, but completely different perspectives of the friendship. There's going to be a train going by. I live about a mile from a train track, so if you hear that, which you probably can hear, that's all that is. Don't mind that. So you have the different perspectives of the same friendship, same relationship, and what the issue is that if that person then takes advantage of the fact that you rely on them, and this happens a lot, and it's in some ways it's human nature, right? And here's the most important thing: it doesn't make that person a bad person, because let's say they do twos with 10 people, and one of them is the one who relies on them, but the other 9 people don't rely on them. So what they're doing isn't bad. It's affecting one person bad out of 10. Now, should they be more sympathetic? If they're a true friend, they should be, but they don't have to be. And I want to stress that too. I don't want to make anyone into a villain over this, because that's not really the case either. So if you're relying on that partner, and all of a sudden he starts taking you for granted, like, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to sign on this week, right? Or oh, I can't, like, okay, so you this week the person who's relying on the other person can sign on like Tuesday, Wednesday, or something like that, and he's like, oh, well, I'm not gonna be able to do it this week then, sorry, bud. And then let's say the person's like, oh, I can try to sign on Friday. He's like, okay, let me know. And then you sign on Friday, and he's like, oh man, I'm sorry, I'm busy, can't do it with you. Now, just the one time, that's not a big deal. So you're the person, you're like, oh, that kind of sucks. I made time to sign on. It sucks that you couldn't do it with me. Oh well, I can't expect you to drop everything you're doing. And then like a similar situation happens the next week, and the similar situation happens 2 weeks after that, with 1 week where the person, you can count on them. So what I would tell you is, if you are in a situation anything like this where you're relying on somebody, and that person, I would say more often than not, if that person more often than not kind of lets you down, and kind of just kind of puts you in a bad spot, makes you feel bad, then you have two options. Either you can move on from that person, or you can just like expand your friends out, which is hard if you're an introvert. I get it. You can expand your friends out to where you don't rely on that person anymore. Those are your only two options. So if it's not realistic that you're just going to make more friends to do the twos with in this scenario, if that's not super realistic for you as a person, but then what you really need to do, no matter how hard it is cut bait with that other person. Because what's going to happen is they're going to keep letting you down, and you're going to keep feeling bad, and you're going to keep feeling bad, and you're going to keep feeling bad. And it's a toxic relationship is what that is. Even if the person's not meaning it to be toxic. A lot of times, like, some people are sociopaths, right? But not everybody is. And so, like I was saying, the other person isn't probably doing it on purpose. They're not necessarily a bad person. Maybe they are. Maybe they are deliberately taking advantage of you, or maybe they are deliberately like holding power over you. But that's not going to be the case every time. But so regardless of the intention, I would say talk to the person, of course, first. Be like, hey, man, I rely on you. Is there any way we can make this happen? And if they're like, no, man, I don't like that kind of pressure. Too much commitment. I don't want to do that. Then you're like, all right, man, I'm just gonna have to move on then. And what'll happen. So you could try to remain friends without doing that. But what's probably going to happen if you don't have anything in common anymore, like you're not playing together, that friendship might fade. Maybe you could remain acquaintances or something like that. But it's definitely important to cut that person out of your life to where you're not relying on them anymore. Even if you really like doing twos or you really need the gear or whatever, um, it's better to move on than to continually be unhappy or angry or have bad feelings that fester inside of you. It's not healthy to do that in any way, and I don't recommend it. It's something that I'm guilty of. It's something I think everyone's guilty of at some point, right? At some point, we've all, whether, and it could be in a romantic relationship, at some point, we all have given more than our counterpart in a relationship has. I feel, not everyone, because someone's always the person that's taking, right? But most of us have, and so we all kind of know what that feels like. And what's really important, and as you get older, it's important to know to move on from those people, no matter how hard it is, no matter how much it might bother you at first. You got to move on because they're just gonna keep. They're what's gonna happen is they're just gonna keep letting you down because that's just who they are. At some point, that's just who you are, right? If it happens, and it's important not to do it after one time. Like someone lets you down one time, you don't go, "Oh, you're not my friend anymore." That's being dramatic. That's being silly. It's when someone's constantly letting you down. When something stops being an anomaly and starts being a trend, starts being a pattern, starts being, an occurrence, like a weekly occurrence or daily occurrence or whatever, then it is what it is, right? And these are things that I've been learning. So I'm 30 years old. These are things that I've been learning probably in the past like 4 or 5 years of my life. People used to tell me when I was a teenager that stuff like this would happen. I was like, oh no way, not my friends. And I'm still friends with a lot of those people, but other ones that I thought I'd always be friends with, I'm not friends with. And you learn those things as you go on, and some of you might not be at that point yet. You could be like 35 and you haven't quite hit that point yet because it matters where people are with their career, with their families. You might be relying on somebody that just isn't willing to put the time in to have like a real friendship because there's a difference between friendship and acquaintances, right? So to have a real friendship, they might not just be willing to be able to put that time in anymore because of their family or whatever else. I know that's the case with me too. Like when I first had my son, it's like I didn't go do anything. It's like I'm not sleeping. I got to help take care of this kid, and God is a strong word. I want to help. I like being a father. So uh, these are things that bother me, and I said I wouldn't use examples from my own life, but I'll use one with somebody that I know it won't bother. Right. So I have a friend who when we were younger, we used to do like everything together. Like way younger, and excuse me, we used to like everything together, like Pokemon stuff like that, like way back in the OG days. And as we got older, we did grow apart because go to college, different friends and stuff like that, high school girls, stuff like that, and we did grow apart, but we always stayed in contact and stuff. We always hung around each other, like if we were at a similar like event where we're both at, we always would hang around each other, like catch up stuff like that. And I continued even though I advanced my life a little faster than he did, like getting a wife and stuff like that, and I have a kid, and like um and like I had like a career before he did because he went to school for a very long time, which is good for him in the long run, but um got a lot of good degrees and stuff, and so I always just kind of figured that we were still like really close buddies, right? And so when he would come back to WoW, I'd be like, all right, let's do this, and we'd do it, and then he would like bail on me, and it was to the point where I was relying on him because I didn't have like a ton of people to do stuff with, or it could be a different game, or it could be whatever. It could literally be anything, or it was even stuff like relying on him being like the fourth or sixth person in our group of playing a board game or something, and he would just like bail and like completely let me down, right? And it was getting old, and so I finally like called him out on it, and he's like, I guess I just kind of figured we were more acquaintances now than friends, and that really hurt my feelings for sure because, um, like I said, I still viewed us as good friends. You know, we still hung out, we still talked all the time, but compared to his other friends that he had made and kept in grown relationships, and comparatively we had grown apart, he kind of viewed us more of acquaintances. So I was relying on him. I was expecting things of him. He wasn't expecting anything of me because he just viewed me as an acquaintance. Like he didn't like, oh well, if he bails, I'll just go do something else, you know, kind of thing. Whereas I was like, okay, well, I need you for this because you're this X person, or you know, relying on you because you know you tie this group together or whatever, or because I need you on World of Warcraft, that kind of thing. And at first my feelings were really hurt, but what I've been able to do is over time is be like, okay, you know, that's fine. You're still a cool person. You're still cool to talk to. We still have a lot of the same interests. So, you know, I don't mind just being acquaintances that chat, you know. And heck, we chat probably 3, 4 times a week to this day. Uh, but it's, you know, we're not like planning any hangouts or, you know, anything like that. And I never really would, to be honest, because especially the way he kind of said it a little callously because I was calling, and I get it, I was like calling him out at the time. Um, I was like calling him out, being like, hey, you know, just I was ripping into him. Let's be fair here. And so I know he said it a little bit callously because of that, but all things considered, it definitely hurt my feelings and took me back a little bit the way he kind of phrased it that we weren't friends. And I would never really fully forgive him for that and like become friends again. But it's fine having acquaintances that you chat with and stuff, and that's a rare case because I said cut off, and I did cut off for a while. I was like, okay, we're not friends then, whatever. I'm not talking to you, whatever. And that was good. That was cathartic for me. So when I did start talking to him again, I came to it for a different place, and that's something maybe you can do that as well. Maybe you can still remain acquaintances with these people without relying on them. Maybe you actually do care, you know, like or maybe he has unique opinions on something that you like or whatever. Another example of something that could be happening to you in the game is if you were constantly loaning someone gold, and of course that ties into real life just because like if you're loaning somebody money, right? So if you're constantly loaning somebody gold and they're never doing anything for you, if you have like an e-girlfriend, that's fine. I'm not gonna make fun of you or anything like that. I know people make fun of people for that, but and you're constantly giving them something and not giving you anything in return, again, you need to end that. That's not healthy at all. In this case, you aren't only giving your time, but you're also giving a commodity. Even though gold's not a real commodity, or items aren't a real commodity, it's still a commodity. And if you're giving that to somebody and you're not getting anything in return that you value, um, then you need to end that as well. I would say that too with like streamers and stuff, right? So if you're giving these streamers a bunch of stuff and they're not like shouting out your channel, they're not like giving you props, they're not talking to you like as even as like an acquaintance or whatever, like outside of the stream and stuff. Don't do that, man. It's not healthy, and I see it all the time. It can be, and it doesn't even have to be like a lot of times it's boy girl, it's romantic, um, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not romantic, and it's just somebody just seeking somebody to like relate with them so bad, and they'll just throw themselves and give stuff, and don't do that, man. I'm telling you, you're gonna regret it later on at some point. You're gonna regret it. It's just not worth it. You gotta end all this toxicity. It's not healthy, and uh, nothing's more important than being happy. Absolutely nothing. You know, if you can find a significant other, whether you're gay or straight, by whatever you are, find a significant other that you relate to. Um, have a family if you can. You know, if it's traditional, that's fine. If you adopt, whatever, have a family. If you're still a kid, and like so, if you're 16 or whatever, when you're done with college or whatever, do those things. It's important. That'll make you happy in life. You still need to pay the bills and stuff. Like you still have to do other stuff too, but do things that will make you happy forever. Right? It's more important than anything else. And as you lose these toxic people, you'll be sad as you lose them, but eventually when they're all gone, you'll realize how happy you are and how much those people have been holding you back from things. So if I'm worried about a toxic person who isn't like responding back to me, who's not signing on to do this or that, then what am I? If I'm worrying about that, then I'm not worrying about work, or I'm not worrying about my hobby, or I'm not worrying about my son, or I'm not worrying about my wife. You're not worrying about the correct things if you're constantly worrying about toxic people. It's a it's something that melts your mind, and it's something that is just extremely unhealthy. I would say the healthiest thing to do is to remain acquaintance with them, because it shows that you're the bigger person, and be like, and just like, so I'm more of a cutoff person because that's just me. Like I get emotional, I get angry. So for me, it's easier to do like a cutoff. But the more mature thing might be, and like less emotional thing might be, just to be like, okay, so we're just acquaintances now. Don't ever expect anything from this person again. If they ask me to do something, I will literally only do it if it's going to make me happy. I'm not going to do it just because they want to do it. Even if it would make them the happiest thing in the world, if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. And you might say, well, that's selfish, right? Well, yeah, it is selfish, but you have to be selfish to selfish people, right? And even if that person's only like selfish at you, like specifically, you have to be selfish towards them too, right? So those are the kind of people that they get along with correctly. So those nine other people that they do stuff with, those people are kind of like selfish thinkers too, and that's why they get along, because they both they they use each other, but there's like no commitment or anything, and they only care about themselves at the end of the day. So you have to think selfishly. You cannot be selfless to a selfish person. It just doesn't work that way. So let's say, so you're doing, go back to the very first example. You're doing twos with a guy. He's kind of taking you for granted. He's letting you down over and over and over again, way more times than not. You don't want to do like the whole cutoff thing. It's either embarrassing or whatever. You don't want to have that discussion, and you don't want to just like ghost somebody. Um, so what you can do is you say in your own head, you don't have to say anything to them. You just go in your own head, okay, we're just acquaintances now. And they ask you to do it. They're like, hey, you want to do the twos? And if you don't want to do it, like you don't, like you literally would just rather go do anything else, to be like, nah, I'm signing off, or whatever. Like, because what happens is, what does normally happen in that situation? You're about to sign off. It's 10 o'clock. You're about to sign off. Start winding out for bed, let's say, and they're like, "Oh, you want to get those twos games in?" And you're like, oh, "Shit, this might be my only chance to do it." So you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it." No, say no to it. Like, what hurts you in not getting your twos games in that you really like doing, it will hurt you more that you just you enabled this person in hurting you, basically, and you just got to stop it. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of talking about what could be a simple topic, but I know for a fact that a ton of people deal with it. I deal with it. Almost everybody I know has dealt with it to an extent, man. And some people just never learn. Some people learn when they're 30. Some people learn when they're 20. Some people learn when they're 12. After the first time it happens to them, they go, "Well, I'm never doing that again." And and that's how they become a selfish person, right? So I don't know what the best person to be. Maybe, is it better to be a selfish person? Is it better to be a selfless person? It's probably better to be a mix, right? And I think the best way to be a mix is that you start off as selfless, and then you slowly learn to care about yourself a little bit more, to become a little bit selfish, and know when to be selfish and stuff like that, and make yourself happy. That's probably the best option, maybe. But yeah, it's something that's near and dear to me, and there's a ton of topics like this, and I'm going to hope to talk about those in future ones as well, and try to relate them to gaming as much as I can, with either real life experiences from me, or just examples that I'm able to come up with, or whatever. And hopefully, yeah, hopefully that can help out some people. I know that there's a lot of people looking for that kind of stuff right now. A lot of young guys with no father figures, no male figures in their lives in this world, and we all got to learn. You know, one big thing everyone's got to learn is like, so what's the what's the manly thing to do, right? Or what's the bro code thing to do? And a lot of people just don't know these days, right? Because they're only experiencing with their friends. Maybe all their friends are kind of more effeminate or beta, whatever word you want to use. I don't want to offend anybody. I just like whatever word is not offensive. And you don't really know how to act. And I was lucky enough to have a lot of older cousins. My dad was kind of a typical man, I guess you'd say, before he was out of my life. Had a lot of older cousins, like I said, and then I became friends after high school specifically with people and did a lot of like real manly type work and stuff like that, and that helped me learn a lot. As someone who also didn't really have a father figure or a male role model or whatever, so that's something I definitely would like to help people with. It's not completely gaming, of course, but I will try it. I not even try. I will tie it into gaming because I've had all these social experiences in real life and on games because that's what I do. Is I play as a hobby. That's what I do. I play games. So I've had all the experiences that I've had in real life. I've had similar ones in a game somewhere, I'm sure. But yeah, um, I know somebody asked in the last one if the drink I had was Mountain Dew in a liquor decanter or a liquor bottle. Yeah, it's a decanter. I did reply to your comment, but it's 2/3 Mountain Dew basically, and then like 1/3 tequila. Uh, uh, Vodka goes good with Mountain Dew as well. Code Red is better. For whatever reason, maybe it's just like the little bit of cherry flavor, whatever it is, and obviously it's not better for you, but it tastes better. And then rum, you want to stick with like a black pop, rum and coke, for example. But like you want to stick with a black pop for rum. Dr. Pepper's good too. Uh, just I mix with whatever I have, and so I've found out what tastes good and what doesn't taste good. But if you're of age or whatever you drink, uh, yeah, try some Mountain Dew with some tequila. It's really good. Just mix it to the point where you taste the Mountain Dew over the tequila, basically. And it for me, it's like 2/3, 1/3, and then that's a good amount of alcohol, like straight tequila, and that it really helps you get wherever you're going for tipsy or just take the edge off, fall asleep, whatever you're doing it for, get drunk if that's what your thing is. Um, that really helps with that. So because it goes down really smooth. So, or you could just buy expensive tequila and drink that instead of like the cheap stuff that I buy. So, yeah, that's what that was. And I hopefully will continue doing these podcasts somewhat frequently. I'm always going to shoot for about an hour long, but it could give or take. If you have watched this whole thing, congratulations. I applaud you because if you're watching this, then uh, you are a hero to me because, hey, I'm a nobody basically. So please subscribe though if you did, because that's what helps me right now when YouTube changed their stuff. I need to at some point get to 1,000 subscriptions. It's not dire, but I need to do that. So yeah, so please subscribe. You can comment, like, all that kind of stuff too. If you comment, I'll try to get back to you. I don't get back to comments as often as I should, frankly, but yeah. Other than that, end it with typical. Everybody have a good one.